Tashi Dilik, Namaskar. On behalf of Ministry of Culture, Government of India, we welcome His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, on this glorious occasion of Global Buddhist Summit 2023. It's a great honor to have the august presence of His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, amidst us. It's our huge privilege to welcome illustrious Sangha Rajas and Supreme Patriarchs gracing the dais. On the right side of His Holiness, we have Most Venerable Vaska Dube Mahinda Bansa Mahanayake Thero Mahanayake of Amarpura Mahanikaya, Chief Abbot of Vasukadev Royal Relic Temple, Sri Lanka. Then we have His Holiness 43rd Sakya Trezhin Khondung Gyana Vajra Rinpoche, Head of Sakyapa Order of Tibet Buddhism, India. Then we have His Eminence Padma Acharya Karma Rangdol, Central Monastic Body of Bhutan. Next we have His Eminence Kyabje Yongzin Ling Rinpoche Tenzin Langtok Thinle Choifak of Drepung Losling Monastery. Then we have Venerable Dr. Dhammapaya, Secretary General, International Buddhist Confederation. Sitting onto the left side of His Holiness, we have His Eminence Revered Khamba Lama Gabju Dembrel, Head of Mongolian Buddhist and Patron IBC from Mongolia. His Holiness 12th Chamgun Kenting Thai, 12th Kentin Thai Situpa Rinpoche. After His Holiness Rinpoche, we have Jeong Pyom from Korea. Next, we have Venerable Bhikshu Dhamma Shobhan Mahathero, President of All Nepal Bhikshu Association, Nepal. And on to my right, we have Most Venerable Thit Thien Tam, Vice President, Vietnam Buddhist Sangha. Proud moments as we are here to welcome all other Sangha leaders, scholars, Dhamma practitioners, other foreign dignitaries from across the globe who have so benevolently congregated here to discuss modern-day global challenges and help in finding solutions through teachings and principles of Buddha Dhamma. The word is blessed as His Holiness has been spreading smiles on the thousands, millions of faces across the globe. International Buddhist Confederation is an apex body under the aegis of Ministry of Culture. It provides a global platform for preserving, propagating, and promoting shared Buddhist values and tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our great honor and good fortune to have His Holiness amidst us this morning. May we seek the blessings of His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso. May I request His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama to address the Global Summit 23 and shower his blessings on us.
Tenjung te konani sawar zebe sanje jomden des. Ta we zambuli digalo tamba mangu yore ene tenjin jabon jwa saaki tenjungi tenjil tenne ngaranzo semgi nganzin be shi nyomu shanda jeya ge be shiru chige ta telaya ene kapte jange chredo ko ngaranzo anda jabadin dang le yongi tenshi shuni mendola jungshin jigden tsuyan den rigsu gunle gyawoshin tenshi jeju 참여가 tenjung 세하게 책임을 시우지르샤 ten 세하되기 샹라 라레바 샹라 라마레바 라왕게 주의 천에 요마레스 ten 중 세하되기 샹라 아니 라레바 샹라 ten에 시 다샤바 사마도 그 팬은 되게 매버지 마레스 대시 춘님에도로 중심직된 수양 등 중사되기 균적이 댄질을 써고 말한서 지금 통주가 단 냠용 용돼야 되지 그 교인을 때내 또서 용돼버지기 뒤에디 아니 또버 딱성 소리지기 마도벽에 패는 명이지 말이스 대시 주님면도는 중시지된 수양 직수군의 개보시 대신제조 참여가
Let me first pay salutation to Buddha Shakyamuni, who taught the truth of dependent origination, Pratitha Samubhada. And among all the great spiritual teachers of the world, one thing that really defines the Buddha as a unique teacher from the Buddhist point of view is his teaching on dependent origination. And dependent origination, Pratitha Samubhada, really captures the essence of Buddha's insight and Buddha's teaching. Now, when we look at the term itself, dependent origination, Pratitya Samubhada, and in Tibetan is Tenjung, which is composed of two syllables. One is dependent, and second, ten. The second is Jungwa, which is origination. And these two syllables really capture a powerful insight into the understanding of the nature of reality. The first, the word dependent, really indicates the basic truth, how everything is dependent upon each other. Nothing is independent. And it is through this dependence, which is the actual fundamental reality of everything. And then the second element, origination, points out how things come into being through this interrelatedness, through this dependence. So on the one hand, when you think about the concept of teaching on dependence, nothing is left that exists independently. But then we cannot conclude by saying, therefore, nothing exists. That's why the second element is important, because even though there are nothing that is independent, but through dependent relationships, things can come into being. And it is the understanding of that truth of dependent origination that can really help us, dispel, ignorance and misunderstanding about the nature of reality. So understanding dependent origination as the heart of the Buddha's teaching and the characteristic of Buddha as a teacher of dependent origination is really important.
엔데네 나라서 삼루 로당 그 토네 나 신의 사심부 쇼지 세윤데 에네 대단데 년기 초들라 착심게야 나들 또서 먼지부 용에 이들라 자원 두시 샤네 에네 지기 심네 지기 또서 당심 용야로 차단 이부도 용야데 또 나르즈메 로테기 용되기도 와 자사가 안다 다오차고 우먼주고 최저가 나라 근시 생이 개로도 편존디 사분단에 별로 충저 유린도 로저 나라 매버도 되요 디지다게 통원 닝지 더블지 셴이 가다슴 차단 이부되게 녀로 상황 서용거 여인도산에 저 군럽게 펜베 삼바 군럽 동에다 차나 대화다 되나 삼베 저 로다데 애니 시우지가 사셔무레스 애네 반단다 어차고 우먼주고 삼베 그도래야 최주기 유신 모송와 닝지 속으로 수하디 애니 산제베 최기 통모를 깨워 바로도 깨워 탐모를 깨워 닝지디 시우지 사셔무레도가.
So how does this, why is this understanding of dependent origination important? Because if we examine our day-to-day experience of being in the world, each of us will recognize that at the heart of our existence is a strong sense of self, I. And when you lack the insight into dependent origination, our tendency to grasp at this self as real is going to be strong. Once you have a grasping at a self as something real, then the basis for division between I and you, self and others, arises. And on this basis, our reaction, emotions arise. Attachment to those who think are close to us, who are important to us, and aversion to the people that we see as different or maybe dangerous to us. So this aversion and attachment really arises on the basis of our perception of and grasping at sense of self. Therefore, along with the Buddha's teaching on dependent origination, the other important teaching is the teaching on compassion. And the importance of the compassion as the heart of Buddha's teaching can be recognized in Chandrakirti's text, Entering the Middle Way, where he compares, when he writes the salutation at the beginning of the text, unlike other texts and other masters, he chooses compassion to be the object of his salutation at the beginning. And when he pays homage to compassion, he compares compassion to the seed that is important at the beginning for spiritual growth. He compares it to the moisture in the middle that, enables the seeds to grow. And he compares to the fruition at the result as well. So pointing out the importance of compassion throughout all stages of spiritual development. So when you combine compassion and wisdom of dependent origination, then you have the heart of the Buddha's teaching.
사대제 인도산에다 시베 사번 남시대 유능 대의 주로 유로 당매 통원이 시베 사번 가고 있는 다 나버셔버 지초 강나나야 퇴진원의 여버시나 나고다도 퇴진원의 여버시 판 진댕에게 로되게 애네 차당의 로되기 그 계용의 여버 인도산에 애네 능식의 천디 퇴진원의 여버시 나용의 여데 나고다도 주고 때내매 상바시가 타 쳐버시가 상로스의 인도산에 애네 가나 지금 그게 유딩의 여도 지금 로로 샤돼야 돼 미도 상바시가 생고 띵네扩大쳐버시가 상로도하지 대 개심을 하셔.
So as Buddhists, our task is to cultivate these two qualities, compassion and wisdom. And with respect to wisdom, as I spoke earlier, at the heart of which is the teaching on dependent origination, or in other words, the teaching on no self. And the teaching on no self is important, and how do we cultivate this? And here, the 2nd century Buddhist master Aryadeva says the following. The root of cyclic existence is consciousness, and the objects are what consciousness experiences. When you gain insight into the no self or no reality of the objects, that's when we will, exterminate the seed that will give rise to existence. So in other words, many of the problems that we face that lead also to samsara existence really are rooted in the way in which we perceive reality. Although reality lacks independent existence or self-existence, we tend to, believe in the appearance, and we follow after the appearances of things being real out there. And once through cultivation of wisdom, we begin to see the absence of such independent existence, then our tendency to grasp and our tendency to have attachment based on that grasping will be loosened. And in this way, wisdom will arise.
애는 가서 봐도 저러게 소르들도 시봉 오니기 동 오니기 시제체 시보 나시 시베 현재 참말로 지금 남든 거거든 지금 남의 거거든 지금 되게 직도 되게 거거든 되게 또 자연도 뭐들이 선에 말한소로 되게 응원에 여버져 나는 시기 때문에 매버지 다 죽도와 시봉 오니기 동스 다 오니기 동에 내주 대라 말한소 치질로도 돈이 애네 차단 걸로 로간다 지금 팀무 댄싱이 애네 다 로드즈 제디 고 레이고 여빈도잖아요. 시봉 오니기 동에 야고 저 상로 당도나 애네 된데게 시봉 오人心就动的呀哦这上路看有为呢希望我你一动我你一时这些事希望看这个对不对他们说团结我呢如果是单单没把这个他却把这个上路是都是来印度上呢我你一时这些事 Dindri yindu da ngaranzo peke chiga tungni dawa do samdane chana ngo ni yi dong ngo ni yi si zhe che rangxin dagwe samdanbe sibo tangpo chabo gyuru sa digi eni chigi cho shigne tagi gandang dawa chagwe ungujigwe lungdi shibo na shi zawa ni ji chenpo de 통다 보송도 개셔시 애는 안다 측제되기 간다이니 최남 된주든지 낭신 낭어다든 진배 로데 애니 간다베가 낭어다도 단된이 주고 때는 매버지 그 상도스 거인도 전에 애니 최남 오 니기도 오 니기 시제시 러시 타고 있으면 시보 담보 쳐버 교로 세니 애니 덴진 rinpe tenzin pasha da shebo pangbe ane nyangde ka kowang ane ngoto chetukure sa tiki pe rawa shibishilo kuduwa chi che kazo dungye samudani yi muk deyade membache kanda dungye ke sawa tenzin ki chigi yabada tenzin sayadi shenyu lo chube lokshi yindewa da di chidon nawa nanshin tenji ngono chubo membache ke koda choni yundusane ane chono 담보는 낭시 낭어도 담보는 준비 준비돼 애네 갈래 봐 슈슈는 라지게 땡아를 사샤네 네 냠는 전부도 연구미도디 얘네 전주구 섬다 탑기산에 전주구 섬다 시라고 산에 동리기 따와디 니지신도 난된션 상던 게
So,
상당베 락제게 다 제가 로 니슈 숨주 패지 싸움 담버려. 저 년자리 싸움 던지잖아요. 그때 성로야 요 전부 되게 봐.
So, as I said earlier, one of the sources of problem is our tendency to believe in the appearance that we experience, our tendency to project onto reality things which are actually not real, and tendency to project independent existence. So as I said earlier, through cultivation of wisdom, at the heart of which is the teaching on shunyata, emptiness, one will also begin to recognize that our perception does not mirror reality, so that we don't naively believe and run after the projection that we experience through our perception. When we are able to do that, then this will free us from strong craving and grasping, and the craving is removed not simply because you wish it away, but by gaining insight into the nature of reality. So in this way, when you are able to remove craving, then the mind becomes pure. And that purity of the mind, that state, is nirvana. Nirvana is a state of mind. Therefore, earlier I said that what is required on the part of us as Buddhist practitioners is to really, pay attention to these dual processes. One is the process of deconstruction of our tendency to grasp, which is the practice of the wisdom, no self, emptiness, so that we free ourselves from grasping. The other is an active process of cultivation of qualities like compassion, such as I cited from Chandrakirti. So through this combination of, cultivation of wisdom through removing ignorance and through this active cultivation of compassion, then there is a real possibility of attaining enlightenment as Buddha suggested. Therefore, it is important for us Buddhists, because otherwise, when we think about existence as characterized by suffering, if there is no way out from suffering, if there is no solution, then focus on suffering alone can be, demoralizing. But the Buddha's message is ultimately a positive one. There is end to suffering. There is a possibility of a freedom from suffering, and that is through gaining insight into the nature of reality and cultivating the qualities like compassion. And I can share with you that although I cannot claim to have deep experience myself, but I can share with you that as a result of reflecting deeply and practicing deeply over decades, it really feels there is, once you begin to get a sense or taste, that there is a sense of freedom that comes within you. So there is a real possibility of a transformation.
Tende Indusane, Umunjukwe Sigdi, Tedalotu Sejina Sejane, Rangalana, never Guru Russian, Sisum de the Molu, Dene Gemebo, Tode Tanya, Tempedo, Gobon Ro, Sagi, the Shinen Jogum de and the Shu Yungumin, Mother Shen, Sig, Jolam Toyagi, Raw, and then Leingudua.
So, the same author, Chandrakirti, also says that as you sharpen and develop your own qualities of the mind, and then the illumination of that, your own mind will, open up nature of reality, and through the skillful means of conventional truth, which is the method aspect of the path, then one will be able to travel to the shore of enlightenment. So, and an important part of that, which is a challenge, is to actually develop shamatha, the ability to maintain your mind completely focused and settled for a long period of time. And this is one area I still struggle myself, but still I feel that, I'm able to make some progress in the direction that Chandrakirti is suggesting.
And the issue the Umunjukwe Sigan, the show de Tedalotu Sejana Session, Rangalana, never Guru soon to the Molu, Dene, Toto Tanya, Tempedo, Toto Goporto, someday image in draw, Gomibana, Ninja, George. Tegon de Sunja Sanjan, Rijeni, Molubono, lawyer, Papa and the issue de Guzutini, Shoyanka, Gajo, Nangweja, Tenny, Ngaway, Dundutane, Gaverung, Shudoki, Gavayan, the Jazub, Howard, Chodon, draw, Saturday, several Shudua.
So, Chandrakirti.
Sigban Nashan, Loda, Gajuna lady already, and in addition to Chanju, some the Tony Tower, some of the town yonder, she Rosale Mudua, Sendigalia, the Chalong, she Tobiada, and it Dinea, the town of the Kakuman, Chalong Tokuri, some of the Lolia, Such Tigidua.
So Chandrakirti also says in that same text, actually in the next verse, he says that how when you are able to gain deep insight into the nature of reality through the wisdom of emptiness, in fact, compassion will naturally arise for the beings who are suffering in the world. So the compassion for suffering beings is a byproduct of wisdom that is cultivated. And when one is able to cultivate this wisdom of emptiness and compassion, then, one is equipped with the two wings, like a powerful bird. And then with these two wings of compassion and wisdom, one will be able to cruise the space towards enlightenment. So I truly feel that this kind of teaching and imagery that Chandrakirti is providing gives us kind of an optimism and hope as a practitioner. I'm in my late 80s now, and I still practice. And, my hope is, to be able to at least reach the second stage of the marga, which is the path of preparation, before the end of my life.
친주간에 타인의 저 관계 직시도 차샤나 셰고 차 소시사들 친주간에 공부요래. 이제 다 디스물이 영어도 그게 구조 생애데 안데 샤마타보는 신기 동리가 따와다 장주금 다 디톤에 애니 스물이 영어는 전에게 구조 태인 것도 신 셰고 차 소시 고마시고 되게 시라시라 소도 적으면 되고.
So in my own Tibetan tradition, as you know, there is also the Vajrayana tantric practice, which involves meditation on deity. And in my case, deity visualization has been an important part of my practice, even from my childhood, a particular form of deity, Vajravairava. But, to be frank, even though I do these practices, the practice where I really feel the greatest impact in my own mind is the cultivation of wisdom, and especially the the cultivation of bodhicitta, which is the aspiration to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, grounded in compassion. These are the two main practices that really seem to make a real impact in my mind.
세상에 들이대 아니 산지의 책 당아서 배 가서 그렇게 삼단이 다 달라야 그게 대바 장야세 또 시기에 인도산에 다 안다 말에 냠용고 터네 뭐서랑 라랭게는 연도 식섬을 야 구조돼야다 교돼야 저기 아니 지 잘람지 톱돼야다 데 거로시 미워를 치기요 소시도가 자선가 태어나서 셔도 넘버지네 다 공ገብ니 성우다니 아니 갈래 섬 모르는 것이 아니 시시 되어지 차 아니 서무 대코나 이게 더나 야프게 로다 로파 저기 전이라 로다야 저기 아니 나데다 로드이들은 야 곰고로 겨울다 자산 결혼주 다가는 신세냈다 지금 서보다 자체에 쉬고 고대리 상도 니리신도 상당니 치바이나 교된데 누구래
So,
내가 결혼주 쳐줘서야 아니 다 간다 저기 전조 송지기 돈에 아니 장주고서부터 동리기 到 관여돼 장면이 숙견세 후다나쇼아
so many of us who are gathered here are followers of the Buddha. We see ourselves as practitioners of Dharma. So the reason why I shared some part of my own personal experience and practice is to really bring home the point that all of us, each one of us, if we take our Buddhist practice seriously through cultivation through meditation, and the meditation really needs to combine both analytic meditation of deep inquiry into the nature of reality, understanding of compassion, and also internalization of that through meditative practice. So this combination of both resting meditation and analytic, discerning meditation is really the way to go. And if you are able to do this, you can really see a real difference even in your day-to-day life. Once you are able to cultivate a little bit of wisdom, you change the way you see the reality and your own existence. When you are able to cultivate compassion, then you really see the difference in your own day-to-day life. And those who are serious practitioners, if we dedicate more time to personal practice, we will also be able to have aspiration to attain higher levels of realization as well. So I urge all of you to make some effort.
나라도 남주 제 공부 차상서 보증아 동직በት 아니 동당야도更年당야로 뜻이 암조 사서 쉬고르디 그게 공자야 돌 사람 지 아주 상단데 투쇼된데 주의로 소시도
So
다가다 가도 nga 가서 ng부든 저기 지 쉬우지게 또 초로침으로 시야디 고고그래 담이 차상 나고 차상도 저게 이제 고고그래디 이제 조조데 니지신도 창주고সম도 동리가 따와려야 상무단한테 에는 상면 슉 떼우세 후다 나쇼 대야 칸에 셰셔 지고 말에 된 알아라는 게 냠용부터네 상무당 아니 세식고 고무로 그저 토도 시켜윤데 뭐냐 전에 카이라에긴 교대야지 연구도가 에는 나동 부저식 수샤위네 데 더그즈기 구조돼야 또 가고래 엔데 창상을로야 지내 냠용부터네 다즉 상담이나 뒤에 서버로 샤용도가 그다 식삼모임 뭐냐 전에 서버로 차윤데 아니 처로 상월로기 아니 전조 순지기 돈에 아니 장주고슴도 돈이 따와려야 그저 토도기 아니 상로다 나쇼아선 나디 쉬야인 대게 엔다 간다지 최기 렉지가 서럽디 뒤인 대 상매 공부장 근데 후다나쇼
So, of course, as part of our own tradition in the monasteries, there are also rituals that are part of the traditions. In the Tibetan tradition, rituals involve, beating drums and playing cymbals and all these kind of musical instruments. And of course, they are part of the tradition, but it is important for us to remember that is the ritual of these performance of rituals is not the most important one. Because if you focus too much on the rituals, the only thing that you get is all the noise these musical instruments create. Where we should really pay more attention and focus is the inner development, inner cultivation. And inner cultivation has to be done through, as I shared before, combination of this analytic and resting approach, resting the mind, focusing it, settling the mind, then applying it, and so that you can combine. And the focus of those two approaches has to be really cultivation of wisdom, some understanding of the nature of reality, and then cultivation of compassion, and particularly bodhicitta. And if we are able to do this, as I said earlier, in my case, they've become, if you spend some time on inner cultivation through meditation, these teachings become real. They become fresh. They become alive. It is, and in fact, by making these teachings come to life in you, you will really experience the fruits and the benefits of the Buddha's teachings. So, since many of us who are gathered here are practitioners, I really wanted to make this important point. So, also at the same time, urge all of you to, put more effort into your own daily practice.
나도 배배내다 독단 때 호흡할 독 때에는 내가 교부 수시하도 와. 저리 이내 자주고 섬도 동의가 따라 섬도 도저야 봐. 갱에 장주고 놈도 교리셔버 충분히나 지점 그 갱에 마음고 중에 저기 지금 섬나로래야 로제 용야다. 아니 간다 지금 남기 주야기 교리야 지금 신이 줘야 지금 사실은 인도 상매 아니 상로동다가 더네 아니 가다 장주고 섬도 동의가 따라 슉 잡아야 돼 백해 shum부리 아니 갱에 장주고롱도 교리셔버 중나 아니 맞아 강에 상황 세토리.
So I can also share with you that by engaging in this kind of inner development, and particularly focusing on wisdom and compassion, it really can help increase our courage as well. For example, in the case of my dealing with the current struggle and situation of Tibet, if you think just only about it from a narrow angle, you can lose your hope. But if you look at this crisis and look at this current situation from the broader perspective of the courage that the cultivation of bodhicitta and compassion gives you, then you can have a much more resilient mind. So even in your own life, day-to-day life, there might be problems which may seem enormous and unbearable, but if you have the courage that bodhicitta and these practices can give you, you will be in a much stronger position to actually turn adversities and difficulties, not be overwhelmed by them, but actually transform them creatively into opportunities as, further, assistance on your own path. So this courage coming from the practice is a powerful tool for transforming, dealing with adversities and transforming adversities into opportunities.
어다데 나샤샤나 도메 에네 사탄의 기회 밑다 보고 차대어리 에네 사사야레 슝디이드 도스 장 엔데 산줄레니 네 슝디이드 삼로 슈 단데기 디 슈지 그 로레야 판도 용대하다데 민도 너신다 사상가 로 장고야 사디 겸전디 소소 개변 약수디 로 장배 토네 에네 용야지 다 상매는 후다 나로나서 쉬야인 엔터리 산제베 총고 산제베 총고리야 들데 어서 소셔 두스리 어디 미 출루 삼월로 미 가다 밀 편도 요래 싫어 요래 이내 심 현조 송지가 돈에 얘네 제 터, 그 서버도 다시 수수도 상당 현대화돼 패질 낭배축이 캐주 서비스 패지 사대셔. 당 알아서 정말로 된대게다 취수지 아저다 알아서 다 가서 그렇게 네 지금 판매내 마유대비 취수차대 요리 다디 렌단전지 임버지 50배 톤에 그저 톱두기 지금 냠ren천이 숙지기 있나 아니 지금 정원이 되가는데 주로 매워 요리 아니 주로 잠만데 요리 지금 디디기 맹알이야 뭐네 지금다 산지에 냠ren천이 지금 디디 뭐네 지금 카요 라요기 지금 좀저를 걸어 동야도 가서 버지 쇼나 때때에 샴딘 주리 때에 거진 소야리 산지 삼월로 공부시 아니 후다나쇼.
So, in my own case, I was a young child born in the remote part of Tibet, in the northeastern part of Tibet, and brought to central Tibet. And ever since, I had the opportunity to be schooled in the study of the Buddhist texts. And, many of these Buddhist texts are treatises written by great Indian masters, and which really present these teachings on wisdom and compassion. And I have personally found them to be deeply impactful while in Tibet, and especially ever since coming into exile. I've familiarized myself with these texts, contemplated on the content of these teachings, and I personally find them to be a powerful source, not just for personal practice, but also mental resilience, to give me courage. And I think this is really important to keep in mind. Today we have a large gathering of representatives from various Buddhist countries. This is an international gathering. Of course, Buddhism is one among many religions on this planet. Yes, all great major traditions of the world carry a message that is same, love, compassion, and so on. But I would say that what makes Buddhist, the Buddha Dharma unique is the richness of the resources that are found in the tradition for inner development, particularly through the combination of what I called analytic, approach and more concentrative, restful meditation practice. The meditation practice is very rich and aimed at transforming our own mind. So that, I think, is an important feature of Buddha Dharma. And if we, recognize this, and if we embody it in our day-to-day life, then the fruits of that embodiment will be obvious to everybody, not just to Buddhists. There are many different faith traditions in this world. There are also many people who do not subscribe to any particular tradition. But for all of them, if we as Buddhists can illustrate through our own life the benefit and value of Buddha Dharma, I would say this would be a service to the Buddha Dharma. This would be a way of saying thank you, expressing our gratitude to our teacher, Buddha. So this is something that I wanted to share with you.
야, 시. 다시 당연히 현다시 대안도 저로 그 요매. 저. 요말왜? 다시나 셔셔먹으로 주사를 다양 저도도 다데 갈아서야
So, and I've had a very early breakfast, so it seems to be getting closer to the time when I'm getting hungry.
투시.
Thank you all.
투시.
Thank you, His Holiness, for the precious pearls from the vast ocean of your wisdom. The gratitude we owe to His Holiness is beyond any description, and cannot be adequately expressed in words.